Hi everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video, it's a video you've all been asking for. Actually no, it's one of the videos you've all been asking for. We're going to be ranking all of the episodes of Miraculous Ladybug Season 6. I know there are other videos you're all waiting for, like my overall commentary, the timeline, the awards show, outfit analyses, theories. I know, I understand. I know all of that, but I can only do one at a time. But as always, please leave your video requests, suggestions, any other kind of theory video you think I might like to look into, something like that. And I will eventually get around to it between the hiatus of Season 6 and Season 7, which now, before everyone asks, I don't know how long it's going to be. So I am now going to rank all 26 episodes of Miraculous Ladybug Season 6. However, as always, and I would hope I wouldn't have to keep having to say this, but obviously it seems I do with people's reactions to it, this is just my opinion. If you disagree with me on any of these placements, that is fine. Besties don't always agree with each other, but they always respect each other's opinions. So if you would have all of this in a completely different order, that's fine. And honestly, I'm expecting to, because I would be pretty freaked out if even just one of you had the exact same order for these episodes. Okay, we all watch the show for different reasons. We all like different things about the show compared to each other. So it's totally okay, and also very, very normal if you disagree with me. And I would absolutely love if you could leave your official ranking in the comments, maybe giving some reasons as to why. And again, besties, if you're reading other people's rankings and it differs greatly from yours, that does not give you an excuse to be rude to them. Okay? Now with that out of the way, let's go. We're gonna go from worst, in my opinion, to the best episode, in my opinion. So I've got my notes here in a different notepad than usual because one of my brothers took the other notepad for something else. But anyway, in 26th place, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, is of course Queen of the Dread Zone. In my opinion, was this episode not only the worst of the season, I think it's actually one of the worst episodes of the entire show. In my opinion, the episode, first of all, I thought was honestly completely pointless apart from the end scene with Lila in Shanghai. That was the only interesting, fun part of the episode. Everything else, there was no point to it. Thomas has told us repeatedly that Chloe isn't getting redemption, which as much as I disagree with the decision, I'm like, okay, fine, she's not getting one. So what was the point of this episode? Because I already sat down, like I say at the start of my reaction, before I see anything of the episode, I already know she's not getting redeemed, so what was the point of it? You could argue, it's like, oh well, it's for Sabrina to get closure. Sabrina already got closure in Daddy Cop. And then the only other possible point you could have had is, oh, Zoe getting outed as Fury, because as Fury she fights her sister, and Ladybug finds out that it's Zoe and she has to make a decision like, okay, morally it's incorrect for Zoe to do that because that's an abuse of the Miraculous's power, but also at the same time, Chloe was absolutely horrible in that episode. But there was none of that. It was just honestly a pointless episode. Pointless. The only good thing about it was Lila at the end, and there's also a massive plot hole in it with the box. So Marinette takes out of like the skips or whatever when they're cleaning up the school afterwards, when they're all outside, and she's like, oh wait, the Akuma flew out of this. Marinette didn't see the Akuma flying out of that. Marinette had a back channel, was walking out of school, so how does she know that? She doesn't. She also said, oh, Chloe also received it. Chloe opened that package with the jewellery box inside on the helicopter. Marinette was not in the helicopter. So how do you know all of that? Answer is you don't. We know all of that, but Marinette does not know that. Is Marinette correct? Yes. Should she be? No. And it was a terrible episode. So in 25th place, and I think this might be, I don't know, maybe controversial for me to put it so low, but I'm actually going to put Vampigami, again due to the gaping plot hole here in the cinema. So if you remember in this episode, Marinette and Adrian go to the cinema, but then someone gets akumatized and it'll end up having to leave, but the front doors to the cinema are locked. So Marinette runs into the bathroom to transform, but Tiki's like, whoa, wait, there is a camera. However, this plan only works that you corner Marinette into one possible place if all of the doors are locked. And all of the doors are not locked because we see Adrian go into like the entrance to the living quarters where I'm assuming Zoe and Andre live, and he transforms, no problem. So it's just a bit silly, to be honest. It doesn't make full sense. Whilst I liked the general vibe of the episode, which is basically a Rocky Horror Show type thing, I did think it was a massive letdown for a Rose and Julika episode. I don't think it did either of them justice. And teamed with a massive plot hole, I just thought it was really disappointing. So in spot 24 is The Dark Castle. Again, I liked the idea of this episode with Alex coming back, being able to see her family for her birthday, and Marinette getting the bunny Miraculous, and I loved the section where she's trying to make sure Alex's party runs smoothly and she like moves a plate and then the world explodes. That was funny. However, this episode is very much an episode of two halves. They don't mesh together really in any way. The only link between the first half of the episode, the first half being Alex's birthday party, and the second half being the Akuma of the Dark Castle, which was a really cool Akuma. They were barely related. The only connection is that Mr. D'Argencourt wanted something from the Louvre from Mr. Cubdell, and Mr. Cubdell said no. Obviously Mr. Cubdell being Alex's dad. They have no other connection other than that. The Dark Castle was super far away. None of the kids, apart from Marinette and Adrian, seemed to even know there was an Akuma happening. During this episode, Mr. D'Argencourt didn't at any point target Mr. Cubdell and Alex and everyone else. It was completely separate, and I just think it really lacked a lot of the meshing together of the Akuma and like the setup that we usually see. In 23rd place is the first episode we saw of the season, which is the Illustrator. However, I will admit, I think possibly part of the reason why I'm so about this episode is because it was the first one we saw, and yeah, we've waited. How long was the hiatus between season 5 and season 6? 2 years or something? I can't remember the exact dates. It was a long time. So part of me feels a bit let down that after such a long wait, this was the first episode back. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it was an awful episode. It's not like Queen of the Dread Zone or Vampigami with these random plot holes in them. It was just a bit like, So I understand maybe I've ranked this one so low because it was the first one we saw after such a long time, and it was fine. It was a bit slow, it was a bit boring. I liked the Akuma, I enjoyed the 4 heroes together, but honestly I just felt a bit deflated by it, and I tend to forget it exists. And in a similar vein, in 22nd place is Clata Queen. I love the idea of this episode, where I know it didn't air first, but it is production order wise anyway, not necessarily chronological order. The first episode of this season, and of course, again, production order wise, the first episode of Miraculous Ladybug season 1, Stormy Weather, Clata Queen, Aurora Kumatized both times. I really liked the mirroring there. Like, it's fine, it's not a bad episode, there's nothing technically wrong with it. But I usually forget it exists, so. And then again, in a similar vein, in 21st place is Sublimation. All these episodes kind of aired together around at the same time. Again, same as the other two. I do tend to forget about it. I do think it was a good episode for Sublime's introduction and the introduction of her parents, and I did think the representation of her disability was good in my opinion, and from what I've seen from other people who are physically disabled. I am disabled myself, but I'm not disabled in the same way Sublime is, so it's not up to me to say whether or not it was good representation, but I did like it, and from what other people have said, they did think it was good representation. But again, there's nothing technically wrong with this episode. I'm just like, These 3 episodes I just kind of forget they exist. So in 20th place is The Chained Titans. Now don't get me wrong, I think the topic of this episode, divorce, was very important. My own parents, well, they started the divorce process when I was 7. It often takes a while, I didn't finalise till I was 9. So as a child who has been through a divorce, I do understand this is a very important topic for children to learn about, because it does happen quite a lot all over the world where parents get divorced when they still have very young children. I know some parents try to wait until their children are grown up, but either way, it still happens. So whilst I do think the topic was very important, the Akuma just didn't work for me, because whilst I like the idea of it, Nino as Carapace, he's like, oh, they need to solve this together, and he is correct, they do need to solve this together. However, the whole point of the episode is that the two of them couldn't communicate, as in his parents. They both wanted vastly different things. So how are they going to be able to communicate to solve this when they couldn't even communicate in real life? And they literally can't communicate because as the Chained Titans, they're statues. Their mouths can't move. They literally, the only thing they can do is move around. So it was just like, so I understood the point of it, like you shouldn't be using in your divorce your children as like a go-between to try and solve issues. Absolutely not. You two are the adults in this situation. It should be the two of you. So I understood the point of it, but they couldn't communicate anyway. So it just didn't land well for me. And also I loved the Miraculous swap in this episode, and we got Trionyx and Renadette. And whilst I loved seeing Marinette's heritage in the Renadette design with the shoes, those shoes I did a whole video on the outfit analysis, but basically those shoes were worn by women who didn't want to have their feet bound, so their feet would still look small and petite without the injury that would go with it. So I do think that was a weird choice. I'm assuming whoever designed the outfit didn't know about the history of those shoes. In 19th place is Noe. Again, I think this might be a bit controversial to put it so low. In general, I was about to say I liked Noe. I dislike him. He's obviously a horrible person, but as like a character, I enjoyed him being there, and I'm interested to see what he's going to do next. Particularly, you know, he wanted, to buy Gabriel, as in Adrian's dad's company. And I did think it was pretty obvious he was Chloe's brother. If you watch my reaction for Noe all the way through, I'm like, you kind of have a similar face shape to Chloe. At the end I was like, it's because he's Chloe's brother. That's why. However, the Akuma in this one, whilst I liked a revisit to the mime, I did think again the way it was sold was a bit silly. That Polymouse shrunk herself down so she could go and talk to her dad. However, like we've been told before, you're not supposed to be able to recognise people's voices whilst they're transformed due to the quantum masking. So Milen's dad shouldn't know it was Milen talking to him. So good one. In 18th place is A Fairy Good Night, and I want to acknowledge my bias here. Like I said before, we were talking about sublimation. I am disabled, specifically I am autistic, so I understand I definitely have a bias there. Since like Max, I am autistic. I know at the time this episode aired, I was looking on Twitter, and a lot of people were discussing like, oh well, autism isn't like that, autism is like this and stuff like that. I'll be honest, in terms of Max and his autism, I related heavily to it. My experience watching the episode was, I don't do that. And then 30 seconds later be like, oh no wait, I do that. Like he was like, this is my bowl for breakfast. And I was like, well I don't have that. No, but I do have a spoon I have to take to work because the spoons in our kitchen in the staff room feel weird in my mouth, so I have to take one of the ones from home. So I have an equivalent of behaviour. So I think the thing you need to remember with autism is that it is only one word and it encompasses such a broad amount of behaviour, and there should never be one character in media who is autistic that would represent everyone who is autistic. Definitely for the case of me, I often don't identify with a lot of characters who are named as autistic. I often identify with them more when they are more of like autistic coded, I think is the right one, or often or undiagnosed. For example, don't watch it if you're not over 18. Shane Hollander from Heated Rivalry, he is undiagnosed autistic. I relate very heavily to him and his behaviours. Again, don't watch it if you're not over 18, but Francesca from Bridgerton, she comes across, it's not acknowledged as autism because of the time it's set, but at very least very neurodivergent coded. Elizabeth Sott from Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, again same sort of thing there. So it's very rare I actually do identify with someone who is named as autistic. So I personally thought the representation was great, but if you disagree and you're autistic, that's totally fine. But you know, the stereotypes do come from somewhere, which is actual autistic behaviour, and in many ways I am very similar to Max. So whilst again I think the representation of autism is super important, again a bit of a similar problem with the Dark Castle is there really wasn't much link between everything Max was going on and then the Akuma. The only real link was it was on the moon and his mum was going to space. That was it. It was very tenuous. So not great, but the autism representation I thought as an autistic person was good, but please feel free to disagree. In 17th place is Grand Diaper, and I really enjoyed seeing Ray manipulating Zoe, and of course it's the debut of Fury, it's her first episode as Fury. But the Akuma honestly was just annoying. That child was so annoying. Ugh, hated him. I've already forgotten his name. I've rewatched it and I'm like, no, can't stand you. He's on a level with Chris, and you all know how much I hate Chris. I honestly don't have much to say about it. I'm just like, no. In 16th place is a Reckless Driver, and again, a lot of important themes this season. I love the promotion of therapy. All the characters in the show need it, and also me. And I think the Akuma was a very interesting idea, where with the car and she can like identify your phobia and suddenly cure you. I kind of wish that was real, to be honest. Like the amount of times, like I was having an interview for my promotion at work the other week and my manager was going over with me. She was just like, it's fine, it's just really a conversation between the two of us but more formal. There's nothing to worry about. But then she immediately went, but I know you'll worry about it anyway because it's you. And I was like, yeah. You are correct, that is me. But in general, I just thought it was a fine episode, but it's so high up because it did have some plot progression for Adrian, which is what I've been after forever, basically, since the show started. In 15th place is Lady Chaos. I'm not the biggest fan of this episode, just because of all the lies told to Adrian. And I understand it's for the drama of all the lying to him, but I'm just like, I'm just over it now. I'm gonna go over this kind of theme more in my overall season commentary, but right now I'm just like Marinette feeling guilty and lying to Adrian. They just repeat this theme so much this season, and I don't think Amelie's Akuma, as cool as it was to see her get akumatized, I just don't think it was strong enough to carry those themes. There have been much stronger episodes that carry them, so I didn't think it was great. Honestly, I think the best part of this episode is when Cat Noir has like a cat blank moment right at the end of the Akuma. That was the best bit of the episode. So in 14th place is Yaka Gozen. Again, I just feel it was a bit fine. Not great, not good. Of course, it is the first time we see Chrissy Pop in her costume, which was really cool. And I'm very interested into learning more about Lila and Tomoe's relationship, because apparently Tomoe really is her mum, which I'm still a little bit confused about, but okay, whatever. But it just feels really empty in my opinion, with Felix being there, and I'm fine with Felix being there in theory, but because his behaviour has changed and there's been no apology, no redemption. Do you know, like for example Daddy Cop with Sabrina, that was such a great redemption episode for her, and you directly compare it to Felix and there's nothing. He apologised off screen, as Thomas literally said himself. What? It just feels really empty and hollow, and that he's had all this character development that we haven't seen. It's fine we don't see it every single second, because I understand, well, at least at the time of Yaka Gozen, he gets off the train. I know in Lady Chaos they move to Paris, but in Yaka Gozen I'm assuming is set before, because he gets off the Eurostar or the Star train to see Kagami, so I'm assuming he hasn't moved there yet. So I'm fine if we don't see all the development, but to see him not even apologise, yeah, it's fine. I knew the plan wasn't going to work, even though the plan was cool to get Felix as a muck to control him. At a good pace, but there's no real progression, in my opinion. So that is the worst half of the season, I suppose. Again, I would say, I don't know, I would say everything from Noe to Yaka Gozen was fairly good. Everything else I pretty much hated underneath that. So now we're going on to 13th place, which is Sadinonsi, which of course was Nora's reakumatization, and I love seeing Nora and Alia's relationship in this, and also an exploration of Nora and her feelings, which she quite obviously does not want to talk about, which is fine. I thought that was interesting to look about, and I really enjoyed seeing Ladybug like almost make a mistake and get hit. That was really cool. I loved the ending with Alia, but I think the Akuma would have been more effective if they showed the Akuma as it was happening in chronological order rather than afterwards. I just think that was a really odd choice. I'm not saying it could never work, but I just don't think it worked here in this instance. So in 12th place, and I think this is one of the lowest I've ever rated a finale, but in 12th place is Nemesis. I usually love the finale, especially the final episode of the season, and honestly as an episode I do think Nemesis is good, hence why it's in 12th place. Obviously if I hated it it'd be up there with Queen of the Dread Zone. However, as good as it is as an episode, as a finale I think it's incredibly unsatisfying. I have a really good way to fix it, which I'm going to talk about in my overall commentary. But you know, I've been seeing a lot of tweets of people saying, oh, you know, Nemesis is just like a big setup for season 7. Honestly, the whole season was just a setup for season 7. And I'm like, okay, I understand it's a new arc, but you know, we've had 5 seasons now, well over 100 episodes. If you don't know how to write up a season without it being a setup, then I don't think you should be writing this, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I did think it had some great things in it. For example, the Alia and Marinette confrontation. I think that was all done brilliantly. But the plan was just a bit silly for Marinette to tell everyone it and then to repeat it. It was absolutely wasted screen time, and more of it could have been given to Marinette and her parents, more to Marinette and Alia, and definitely more to Marinette and Adrian, because they do kind of fall out initially at the start of the episode when he's showing her the museum thing, but by the end, yeah, they have that nice conversation together, but I think there could have been a lot more emotional weight behind it had it been longer, had they not lingered so much on this plan that wasn't going to work in the first place. In 11th place is Sleeping Siren. I was very, very excited for this episode. I love the original Siren, I love Ondine. I'm very happy she finally, you know, was allowed to have a different outfit that wasn't a swimming costume. She finally broke free from the pool. And I think it was really useful to explore very real teenage insecurities. As an adult, watching something like Sleeping Siren could very quickly become quite silly and insignificant. But if I put myself back in my, you know, teenage brain of when I was 14 and 15, I'd be like, yeah, I understand it. I think those are normal things to worry about. This episode definitely had the charm of season 1, but without it being pointless, because we have the bullies getting targeted by Fury at the end. It had a really good pace to it. I think it was a really, really solid episode. In 10th place is Revelator or Revelator. I'm still not sure the correct way to pronounce this because I hear it in different ways all the time. The Miraculous Cat Noir getting that, I thought that was a great idea. But they've also never used it since. I suppose if I look at all the other episodes, there really isn't another instance they could have used it, but it is odd they gave him that and he hasn't used it since, so I don't know what that's about. And I loved Rena Rouge's reaction when she gets the orb, the ball thing, the crystal ball, whatever you want to call it, and she sees it and her reaction. Oh my god, and the argument she and Marinette have, I thought it was great. And for example, comparing this episode to Lady Chaos, this Akuma and the argument with Alia was a much better vessel for Marinette's guilt to be talked about, whereas the Lady Chaos one just kind of fell a bit in comparison. In 9th place is Werepappers, and I thought this was a great way to introduce Adrian's extended family, so his grandparents from both sides, so Emily and Emily's parents and Gaby Baby's parents, and also the vast differences between them, particularly the differences between Gabriel's parents and Gabriel himself with the way he grew up. I do think it was a missed opportunity though for Felix to be there. That could have been really interesting and maybe could have kickstarted the redemption, the apology. There would have been room in the episode to do that had they got rid of some of the things. And I also think it was a missed opportunity for Adrian with Sentimonster stuff. If you remember, the Akuma goes into the rings and Ladybug has to break the rings to get the Akuma out to repair them. And as you know, if you damage an Amok, it makes the Sentimonster go a bit insane, like for example in Queen Banana. So I thought it would be really cool if when Ladybug breaks the Amok, we have Adrian inside that trophy thing and he starts to feel a little bit insane, a little bit weird, a little bit of something. He knows something is off, and that way he could possibly, you know, kickstart his own investigation into what happened and what it means for him, what consequences it means for him. But we didn't get any of that. It was a fun episode with meeting all of his family and stuff, but I think there could have been more. So now we're going to enter into the top 8, and honestly I think these top 8 episodes are all pretty solid episodes. So honestly these episodes are honestly, for me anyway, a matter of preference for what I think was better or worse. But honestly I think all these episodes that I'm about to list were all written amazingly and are some of the best episodes we've ever had of the show. So in 8th place is the episode that was written for me. Of course it was Daddy Cop. Again, I enjoyed the revisit of the season 1 Akuma of Regicop, of course, but this time like a more super powered version, because this, did he have a car the last time? Oh god, it's been so long since I've seen Regicop. Pretty sure he couldn't fly last time though. He was flying this time, so that was really cool. And I thought Sabrina's redemption in this episode was great. She's isolated, she's on her own, she's trying to get rid of all her Chloe stuff. She's approaching Zoe because Zoe and Chloe were close, and Zoe understands, I would think, the best what Sabrina has been through, because Zoe was treated in a similar way by Chloe, but Zoe's managed, you know, to move on and has this group of friends. But then she's not welcome when she arrives at the sleepover. Then the girls all welcome her. She gets this new outfit and haircut at the end to signify, you know, that she's moved on from being Chloe's best friend. I thought it was absolutely excellent, and a direct reflection of how rubbish Felix's was, which I want to do a whole video on. And I think Ladybug and Cat Noir had excellent teamwork in this episode. I just thought, so it was great. No notes. In 7th place is Mr. Aggress, aka Statue Daddy, and I absolutely love this episode with Adrian basically confronting his dad. It's always a shame he never actually got to confront his dad, apart from arguably a representation, but I don't think it hits home the same because Gavy Baby didn't know it was Adrian, only Adrian knew that was his dad. And I liked that even though he was defeated as Cat Noir in the episode, he was really the one who defeated the Akuma in that episode without his superpowers. The stuff with Luca was really, really cool. I also really enjoyed the introduction of the council in that episode. Whatever they are actually meant to be up to though, I don't know. I'm still not sure what the perfect world means, because the world in this new Paris honestly seems great. I don't know what the problem is. In 6th place is the Dirty Fires, and I quite literally think this episode is perfect. It was like the female party crasher, and it was split into 2 halves, but unlike the Dark Castle or A Very Good Night, they work really well together. So we have the more light-hearted nature of what was going on with the twins. So obviously Alia's mum finds out she's pregnant, the twins want to help paint the room. Bit disastrous, and they end up getting akumatized. And then on the other side we have the much darker tone of Kagami and her mum and their really dysfunctional, toxic, abusive relationship, obviously Tomoe being abusive to Kagami. So obviously an episode about motherhood, but I just think it meshed together so well with the light and the dark themes. Excellent pacing, excellent tones. I thought it was such a good episode. In 5th place is Regina Razion. Again, another really important episode this season, talking about death. There wasn't much overall plot progression in terms of the larger plot, things going on with Marin and Adrian and Chrissy Pop, but I was fine with that because I think this episode is so important. Remember, I got some DMs though after the episode aired saying, oh, they shouldn't be talking about death in kids shows. Episodes like this are exactly why kids TV exists. I've said before in other videos, the purpose of kids TV is to educate their viewer. When it's very young children, it's things like learning the alphabet, learning how to count, learning shapes, learning colours. When you're getting into that 8 to 10 age range that the show is aimed at, it's looking at more of these, you know, untangible things like death that are much harder to explain because it's not something, you know, you can physically touch like a shape would be. Don't you have those toys for kids where they have the holes on the top and there'll be a triangle and a circle and a square shape? It's much harder to explain something like death to a child. And I thought this episode did it absolutely brilliantly. Instead of outright saying it was about death, they used the metaphor about the house and the time Roland and Marinette had to spend together, and then with the music ending signifying he died was great, but it wasn't a completely down tone because it also had the funny Akuma getting a baby Cat Noir and pension Ladybug. I thought it was absolutely excellent. In 4th place is The Ruler, and again, this episode very important, discussing homophobia, and the amount of comments I got saying, it's not about homophobia. Yeah, it is! It's about homophobia. Anyway, I thought it was absolutely excellent with the comic and his parents learning how to accept Nathaniel and also Mark into their lives as well. I thought it was great. And I love the ending as well with the identity reveal between Mark and Nathaniel, but where was the follow-up to that episode? Like, don't get me wrong, I did want a Mark episode, but that is purely because I love Mark. But also, I wanted it because I wanted to know, like, I was hoping it would be the follow-up. You know, like the episode, like, chronologically after this one. What happened? Because I don't know. Anyway, we're into the top 3, and in 3rd place is Ela Pedra. I thought this episode was absolutely excellent. A lot of you know the Akuma isn't always my favourite part of the Miraculous episodes, but this one was done in such a different way. Absolute cinema. It was amazing. I thought it was so good. Honestly, it probably would have been first, I think, for a long time. This episode was my favourite one, like towards the start of the season when we first got it. I think what would have made it stay number 1 though is if Julika had stuff with her dad. So for example, we have Adrian and his dad in the episode, we have Ivan, obviously his dad was the main focus, but Julika is the one who sings a song about the Akuma, and I think it would have been really effective if perhaps she'd invited Jagged and she sees in the audience he doesn't turn up, which would make the episode so much more meaningful. But I did think it was really, really excellent, absolutely solid episode, although I do find it ironic that at the end they're all like, oh yeah, we can redeem this criminal who, as soon as he's gotten out of jail by the sound of it, he's immediately trying to commit another crime. But this 14-year-old girl called Chloe, no. Forget it. In second place is, I think to no one's surprise, Heart Fixer. I absolutely love this episode. I went insane with this episode. We did a full, like, I don't know what it's called, on this wall of my bedroom where I went to the library and printed out full colour screenshots of the episode, and the library staff were like, what is this for? And I tried to explain, but they thought I was even more of a weirdo. And I thought it was great, even though the Marinette and Nino kiss will haunt me forever. Absolutely it will. But I thought it was great. I had so many moving parts with the 4 kids who were real, and then Ray, Nelson and Lovick who were pretending to be them or pretending to be someone else, like Sublime for example. There were so many moving parts, so it could have been so many opportunities for it to go wrong, for it to slip up, but I think it was executed absolutely flawlessly, and I loved the way that Adrian saved Marinette as Adrian rather than as Cat Noir. I know a lot of people complain that this episode had a short Akuma. The Akuma is usually my least favourite part of the episode, so I loved it. They were like, she was Akumatized less than 2 minutes, and I was like, let's make it less than 30 seconds next time, let's go. But to be fair to Marinette, I think had she spent any longer Akumatized, they would have found out she was Ladybug, so I think it made sense she was Akumatized for a short amount of time. In first place, in my opinion, the best episode of the season, you've already narrowed it down by which one I haven't mentioned, was Secret Protocol. And I thought this episode was absolute perfection. It was so good. I loved the pacing and the tone change, where it was sometimes like horror. That music box music haunts me every time I hear it or remember it. I'm like, ooh. It's quite like a jolly tune, but because of the way the atmosphere of the episode and the urgency teamed with it all the time, it was just excellent. With the way it kind of was like, I guess had this tone of like a regular Miraculous episode, but then all of a sudden it would like switch to horror or thriller style. It was so good. The stakes were so high, loved it. Fabulous outfits in the episode with Marinette and her Chi Pao, and Ali as Ladybug and Fox Fusion. The identity reveal to her parents, which we somehow managed to guess in the bingo card right at the start of the season. I don't know how we did that. Honestly, I think the episode was absolutely excellent. I have no notes. Secret Protocol, in my opinion, was the best episode of the season, and honestly probably should have been episode 26. But I'm going to talk more about the structure of the season in my overall season 6 commentary, which should hopefully be up in a couple of weeks. Anyway, besties, that is just my ranking of the episodes this season. I am more than expecting you all to disagree with me, whether it's a lot or by a little bit. That is completely fine. Do not worry about it. I'm expecting you to. Honestly, if you come up with the same ranking as me, I'm going to be slightly freaked out. But anyway, besties, I would still love to know what you think about my ranking, where you would rank all the episodes, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!